Minnesota tonight.
Thank you. I'm Lizzie Gardner.
And I'm Cody Nelson.
And this is the state of Minnesota.
The Best in Glass Awards, a statewide tap water competition, took place at the Duluth Convention Center last week with St. Cloud coming home the victor. Hey, finally they have something to put on that sign.
Finally. A Duluth man driving a stolen car led police on a 60-mile high-speed pursuit on Thursday night, ending in arrest. At press time, the suspect was white and fine.
After some roadblocks and an eventual relocation, the official Prince tribute concert featuring Stevie Wonder, Christina Aguilera, and many others will finally be held in mid-October at the Xcel Energy Center. The star-studded event is expected to celebrate the life and talent of the man responsible for that classic St. Paul sound.
Classic. Yeah. You really made St. Paul. Speaking of St. Paul, a Prairie Home Companion returns next month with the first show under new host mandolinist Chris Thiele. The Fitzgerald Theater will be taking the usual precautions for when a mandolinist comes to town, which include earplugs for all those raging licks and putting a tarp down because ladies are about to get wet. They are. Expedia released a list of their 55 most breathtaking world destinations last week, and local beauty Minnehaha Falls made the list. And at number 56, the Minnehaha Falls Information Kiosk, said Angie at the information kiosk to nobody.
A racist Snapchat picture has surfaced at the University of North Dakota that depicts 4 white students in blackface with the caption, "Black Lives Matter." The president of UND, who was appalled by the picture, said he planned on finding out the intent. Right, yeah, intent. Good, they could have been joking. We should find that out.
Definitely make sure they're kidding. In other news, a racist Snapchat picture has surfaced at the University of North Dakota that depicts 3 white girls celebrating the fact that they had locked a black student out of their room. We here at Minnesota Tonight are grateful that the white citizens of our state would never engage in such direct racism. It's a much more of institutional vibe here. Brad Pitt was reported as being intoxicated and out of control at the International Falls Airport last week during a layover, to the point where he relieved himself on the tarmac. Sources say he grew agitated at the border of Canada when he found out you can't get UN asylum from your own past. You can't.
Stimoni X, a Minneapolis stem cell research company, won this year's Minnesota Cup, a local startup competition. The company took home $30,000 for winning the life science division and another $50,000 for receiving the grand prize.
Great.
Hey, $20,000 more, you got yourself a couple of EpiPens, buddy.
They're so close. Elsewhere in science, medical staff conducted a study at Hennepin County jails which found that 52% of inmates showed indicators of mental illness. Sources say the administration would like to move these patients to a more appropriate place, but the Minnesota legislature is overcrowded as it is. So, it's a little crowded.
There's been one confirmed death associated with the Legionnaire's disease outbreak in Minnesota. Health experts say that those most susceptible to the bacterial infection are the elderly, those with weakened immune systems, and Wilbert B. Legionnaires, the tragically rich man whose life has been plagued by irony.
Just the one guy.
As part of the Smithsonian's National Museum Day, over a dozen museums statewide waived admission prices last Saturday. These events were part of the Smithsonian's new announcement of their new campaign, Museums. One last shot.
You know what? I'm sorry, but if I want to see a bunch of stuff I can't buy or have, I'm going to go to Target with my wife. Am I right, fellas? A new style of foot traffic was unveiled last week at the Mill City neighborhood, allowing pedestrians to literally share the road with motorists. This living street that allows walkers to roam among moving cars is the first of its kind in Minnesota, based on the Dutch concept known as woonert. Great. They're giving us everything but pot.
Tomorrow afternoon at Chaska's Hazeltine Golf Course, the Ryder Cup will be kicking off with its annual Celebrity Scramble, featuring, among others, Michael Phelps and Bill Murray. Don't blink or you'll miss Bill, though, because he has a busy day. He's headed to Loring Park immediately after the match to preside over a wedding, and then he's third cut at the CC Club.
Yeah. Gotta have a lot of jobs,
Anoka, congressionally proclaimed the Halloween capital of the world, I know, has teamed up with the U.S. Postal Service to unveil a series of new Halloween-themed forever stamps, the first of their kind. And if that weren't exciting enough, which it is, the accolade comes hot on the heels of Anoka's most recent achievement, being named one of Minnesota's towns.
In other suburban news, the historic Terrace Theater in Robbinsdale is being torn down this month to make room for a new Hy-Vee grocery store. A representative for Hy-Vee was quoted as saying, "We've got Redbox, so the nightlife is still around."
A hearty welcome back to civilization goes out to Grand Marais couple Dave and Amy Freeman, who have spent the past year exploring the Boundary Waters. Sources close to the couple have said very little since they can't get a fucking word in edgewise with those two anymore.
Just pictures, you know.
I know what trees look like. You don't need this home. Target has removed children's carts from their stores after numerous accounts of them being rammed against things and bruising ankles. 7-year-old Joni Allen of Minnetonka said, "It's outrageous. I believe in capitalism, a widow west each and every day."
Oh, Widow Joni. Vice presidential candidate and St. Paul-born Tim Kaine returned to his roots last week, a visit many deemed controversial considering his running mate was recovering from pneumonia. Those of us in the North Star State know that this is no big deal, since some of you now and all of us soon will have or currently have pneumonia. I know I do. A teenage black bear is meandering in and out of suburban yards in Big Lake, Minnesota. As Minnesota Tonight's senior bear expert, I just wanted to reassure the residents of Big Lake that it is probably just a phase, but to be on the lookout for massive eye rolls and really short waves of irrational hostility. You know.
Believe me, it's safer if he just does it under your roof. Do yourself a favor, get him some salmon and a Fall Out Boy record.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
According to a study from the University of Minnesota, teenagers who eat healthy food gain less weight as they become young adults than teens who eat unhealthy food. Looks like the numbers on the scale are about to go one direction. That joke was for my stepdaughter Kylie, who is making it very hard for me lately.
And now, sports! Longtime Minnesota Timberwolf Kevin Garnett announced his retirement from the NBA last week. And second-year Timberwolf player and reigning Rookie of the Year, Karl Anthony Towns, said on Instagram, "I know what I must do. I'll take it from here. #Celtics 2019.
Stillwater man Karl Heinrichs, a Viking superfan who adopts the persona of Sir Death during game days, was arrested last week for possessing 134 pounds of marijuana with intent to distribute.
That's a lot.
Man, all the pieces were in place and you just couldn't deliver. You, Sir Death, are a true Viking. True. A list of the 8 best local hot sauces was released last week, and I think the nominees are very apt considering our state. Coming in at number 3, ranch.
Makes sense. And finally, tonight's top story. I'm sure by now many of you have heard that Pierce, Minnesota native, Wells Fargo CEO, and stock photo model John Stumpf is not doing great. I mean, you know that your company is having a bad week when the best thing you have going on is losing an endless photobombing lawsuit with the other thing in town that everybody hates.
You gotta be stumping kidding me. A flat sign on the rooftop of your building right next to US Bank Stadium that isn't meant to sneak into the stadium's aerial shots? I'm sorry, are you banking on the moon now? I suppose opening lunar accounts is the only way to raise your cross-sell value since you can't get any deeper into the pockets of your human customers.
And speaking of high value, Stumpf cannot be feeling much better about himself after getting lit up by the Senate Banking Committee. He causes all this wreckage, defrauds millions of account holders, and then has the gall to blame it on his lower level management. And yet, he couldn't even answer the simplest of questions without either playing the victim or attempting a BS pre-written spin attempt. Are his PR guys the Coen brothers?
I'm not arguing here. I'm cooperating. And we're doing all we can.
Business school Rodney Dangerfield did eventually promise some change, though. He proposed a 5-year plan to hopefully deter misconduct caused under his reign. A copy of said plan has recently been released. However, when the plans
Nice.
inevitably fall through, Stump has a god-level loophole up his sleeve in the form of being sworn in with a broken hand. How'd you hurt yourself, Stump? Grasping at too many straws?
If this trademark jackass wants to keep any semblance of his company's public goodwill, he needs to knock off the excuses ASA stumping P and write the course hard and fast. His own staff members are unhappy, the public feels fooled, and based off of this footage, the Wells Fargo legal team needs a little help.
Here she comes.
It's hard to tell where this controversy is headed exactly, but we are already long overdue for a resignation. If there isn't one soon, he's going to be ousted on a pine pony, and at that point, it's going to be hard to make John Stumpf again. Thank you, everybody. For State of Minnesota, I'm Cody Nelson.
And I watch wrestling unironically.
Thank you.
Tonight, we'll take 10 to talk about college, the place where white people discover Buddhism. It's September, the month where thousands of new students start their first semester at Minnesotan colleges and universities. It's an exciting time. They are just beginning their 4-year journey filled with late-night paper writing, self-discovery, and posing for stock photos with your multiracial group of friends. As a state, Minnesota sends a lot of kids to college. According to the Office of Higher Ed, nearly 70% of public high school graduates seek some form of post-secondary education. For these students, college is sold to them as a pretty sweet deal. You spend 4 years learning big words and curating your laptop sticker collection until you dress up in a knowledge poncho and walk into the adult world ready to get a job and lead a successful, productive life. And when it works out, it's great. For students who receive a college degree, there are some serious benefits.
College graduates land jobs with better incomes, more benefits, and depending on the occupation, over the course of a lifetime, they'll earn around $1 million more than those with only a high school diploma.
And that number doesn't even factor in the valuable memories of the crazy parties thrown by your art rock fraternity, Phi Beta Zappa. I know. But unfortunately, for many students, the reality doesn't live up to the promise. To illustrate, let's follow a fictional college student as he goes through school. Let's give him a stupid made-up name like Jonathan Gershberg. Jonathan is your average college student. He enjoys running, flirting, and if you believe his college application, nursing baby birds, he's willing to regurgitate into a sparrow's mouth. Just imagine what he'll add to the campus community. Now, as an average student, there are no guarantees that he will graduate. That's because statistics show that only 63% of Minnesotan college students end up graduating from 4-year colleges, and less than 50% graduate or transfer from 2-year community and technical college programs. That means close to half of students who enter college in Minnesota will ultimately drop out. Even worse, only a small percentage of those college dropouts are Kanye West from 2004. You might imagine that these dropouts are either tech whizzes or just kids who would like to focus on performing with their reggae-influenced Billy Joel cover band, Piano Man. But that's really not the case. Instead, most students are forced to drop out due to a number of factors, and the biggest one, unsurprisingly, is money. College has never been more expensive. Since 1982, the average cost of tuition has tripled, and in some cases, even quadrupled. And while aid has also increased, it is in no way covering the amount students are expected to pay. To deal with these large expenses, Jonathan, like many of his peers, can take out loans, can get a job, or get paid to participate in a study investigating how long the human body can withstand exposure to face bricks. Turns out, pretty long if you need the cash. But if Jonathan gets a job, like most undergraduate students, it may come with its own price. According to a study by Georgetown University, students are working more hours than ever, but still unable to cover the cost of college. In order to pay for a full tuition at minimum wage, workers would need to work an average of 48 hours a week, which would leave little time for studying, let alone practicing with his socialist improv group, Grapes of Laugh. It's a real shame. Because of this, it comes as no surprise that working more than 20 hours a week while in college has negative impacts on students' academic performance, which makes sense. Think about it this way. If a surgeon worked at a Papa John's for 48 hours a week, you wouldn't be surprised if they mess up a rhinoplasty. But students often don't have a choice. Many work to make ends meet, and unfortunately, the ends don't always meet. A 2015 survey found that 1 in 7 Minnesota college students had run out of food and didn't have enough money to buy more at least once during the school year. And even if somehow our buddy Jonathan stockpiles enough ramen for his first year of college and is one of the 70% of students who make it through their freshman year, he'll have to start taking classes in his major. That is, unless his major is keeping it chill all the time. I hope so. In order for Jonathan to do that, he is going to need to take a certain amount of classes each year. And in order to graduate on time, he'll need the help of his college advisor, who will direct him on which classes to take. But these advisors, along with the hundreds of other counselors, administrators, and tutors that colleges hire to support students, are overwhelmed by the number of students they work with. Many don't have time to even help students plan for graduation or create spreadsheets that track which professors they told their grandmothers had died. Because of these limited resources, many students rely on their families for support. And if you are first in your family to go to college or come from a low-income household, you may not know someone who can help you through the inevitable challenges you will face in college. Take a look at just how stark a difference that can make in how likely Jonathan is to graduate.
The big difference wasn't how hard a student studied or how well they did in high school. The most important indicator was a student's household income. National studies reflect the same divide. Students from wealthy families graduate at more than twice the rate of students from poor families, including students who share the same SAT scores.
That's incredibly disheartening. That means regardless of how intelligent or hardworking you are, you might not make it to graduation because of the fact that you grew up on chicken in the sea rather than caviar, or hand-me-downs rather than tailored suits, or a single mom rather than a single butler. With the high cost of tuition and dismal graduation rates for students from under-resourced backgrounds, you would imagine the state of Minnesota would be pretty concerned about giving universities and students all the resources that they need to overcome these barriers. But let's take a look at what then President of the University of Minnesota system, Robert Brunix, said as he testified before the House of Representatives about the importance of funding the state's higher education system.
For several years now, we have warned of a future tipping point in which we would no longer be able to sustain deep cuts and remain the university our state expects and our state deserves. We would be forced to re-examine the impact and the financial viability of entire operations in the University of Minnesota system. Statewide services, entire schools, colleges, and campuses, the level of enrollment in critical programs, you name it.
That's right. He fought for the university the only way universities know how, by giving a super boring lecture in the middle of the day. And right after he made that speech, the House of Representatives convened and voted to cut state funding for Minnesota's public colleges and universities by 19%, totaling $320 million in annual cuts. Let that sink in for a moment. That's a lot of money. In his testimony, he literally said, "We are at the tipping point. Don't go past the tipping point." And the House of Representatives was like, "What was that? You want us to go past the tipping point? Go past the tipping point is what you said? Okay, well, just do it if you say so." And just listen to what that's going to mean.
In both the Twin Cities and Duluth campuses, which receives $87.2 million in state support, or nearly 25 cents of every dollar you send to us, and still not fill this projected hole in our budget.
That's right. They could cut both of the state's medical schools, and that still wouldn't cover the entire cost of that cut. But just a few years before, in 2007, the state found hundreds of millions of dollars to build the University of Minnesota's football stadium. So basically, the legislature is more interested in watching students get concussions than training the doctors who treat them. Thanks to this and other budget cuts, Minnesota spends $1,351 less per college student than it did in 2008, and nearly half of what it did in 1991. In the same time, the cost of tuition for an in-state student has increased by over $2,000, meaning that the state expects students to pay more for less. That's like you buying tickets to see Billy Joel and ending up seeing Piano Man. In the end, Jonathan, like many Minnesotan undergraduate students, drops out, which is terrible, and not only because he can no longer play with the campus frisbee golf nonprofit, Frolfers Without Borders. Look, remember when Jonathan had to take out those loans his freshman year? The average Minnesotan student takes out $7,000 in loans every year. So, Jonathan will be paying hundreds of dollars a month for at least the next 10 years with nothing to show for it. But it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, there are simple solutions that we can take. Like, for example, we can untip the tipping point that former President Brunix was talking about. We can have better support for low-income students and streamline transfer policies and a ton of other ways that students can be helped to graduate on time. But all that depends on state funds for colleges and universities. Higher tuition at public universities is largely caused by state funding cuts. With less state support, we have no choice but to increase the costs, and students like Jonathan have no choice but to take bricks to the face to pay it off. So, the answer is simple. Increase support for state colleges and universities. Now, you might be thinking, why should my taxes go up just so this asshole can get his degree in conversational Latin and a minor in pretentious snark? But the answer is that you're already paying for him not to. The American Institute for Research calculated that students who started their college in 2002 but failed to graduate lost the U.S. nearly $3.8 billion in income they would have generated had they gotten their degrees. And the fact is that students who don't graduate are disproportionately from low-income backgrounds, which means that those communities affected are already economically disadvantaged. So if we believe that higher education is really the key to upward mobility, we need to make sure that Minnesotan colleges and students have every resource possible to succeed and graduate. Let's give them a chance. Because if Jonathan and kids like Jonathan don't graduate, we'll be missing out on a lot of amazing things. What if Jonathan becomes a doctor, or a lawyer, or a semi-successful comedian with his own show where he can use as many unflattering pictures from his past? I'd say if we didn't have that, we would be in serious trouble. Also, his mother, Shmamie, would probably fucking kill him. I'm Jonathan Gershberg. Stay nice, Minnesota.
Minnesota tonight.
For tonight's interview, we have the high school program manager for local college access nonprofit College Possible, Kumar Balasubrahmanyan. Kumar, thank you so much for being here. So before we start, can you just give us a brief rundown of what is College Possible?
Yeah, for sure. So College Possible is like you said, college access and success network. We work with students in the Twin Cities area. We're in 26 high schools in the metro area. And we just sort of support them on their journey to and through college. So every step that they need, starting off when they're juniors, doing ACT prep through their senior. Oh, so fun! And then when they're seniors, they really focus on picking the right school for them, applying to a bunch of different schools, and making sure that it's financially viable. And then once they go off to college, they have a coach there as well, just to make sure that they are registering for courses each year, able to afford classes year over year, and eventually graduate with a degree.
Awesome. We talked a lot earlier in this episode about some of the challenges that students have once they're in college to graduating with a degree. But there's a whole other side of it that you mentioned, that you help students get to college. What are some of the barriers that students experience before they even step foot on a college campus?
Yeah. I think a lot of the barriers are systematic. The American education system was designed a long time ago.
What?
Yeah, I know, right? And there was a lot of white dudes in charge.
What?
And yeah, as it turns out, the whole populace of America isn't just old white dudes.
Well, okay.
So, yeah.
We got to pump the brakes here.
I know. Education is going on right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
you learn
but
something new every day.
the system isn't exactly designed to support every student, especially not those who maybe weren't born in this country or don't have parents who were successful in that same system. And so that's sort of big picture. But then on a practical level, things as simple as knowing the options that are out there, the difference between an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree, or not to go to a nonprofit or not to go to a for-profit institution because they're not really out to educate you at the end of the day. And so there's a lot of misinformation.
What are they out to do if those for-profit colleges?
They're
say
out
college.
For profit, as it turns out.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah, no, if you are watching TV and you see a commercial, chances are, for a college, chances are that college is much more concerned with making money for themselves than actually creating educated humans, which is what you would hope out of a college.
Well, every Rasmussen bus ad I see, everyone looks so happy. They're like, I got my blank degree here.
They look happy on the outside, but they are crying deeply on the inside. And I think what's hurting most is their wallet and their career prospects. The Minnesota state legislature actually is shutting down 2 for-profit colleges. Globe College and Minnesota College of Business are shut down for fraudulent activities. They were lying to their students to falsely recruit them.
Wow, good for the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that if you could tell a student who is not sure what the next steps are for them if they're entering college or they're struggling in college, what are some resources that they can go to make that process easier?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the key is just being comfortable seeking out help. We all need help, but sometimes it gets stigmatized. Like a lot of communities, if you ask for something or if you don't look strong, that's viewed as a very negative thing. But I really just want to empower students to be comfortable seeking out the many different resources that exist. Colleges and high schools have lots of support systems for students. Students just don't always know about them or utilize them to their fullest.
On the other end, if you are a college graduate or just an adult human person who's really committed to helping students go to and graduate from college, what can you do to help? What can you do to be part of that process?
Yeah, so as an adult human person, you can definitely do a lot of
Are
different
you
things.
on yourself?
I technically am. Check this beard out.
I was looking at it. I was like, is this just a really old 10-year-old?
No, I think there's a lot of things you can do. I think number one is you can just sort of stress the importance of education everywhere you go and talk about it. It's a conversation that doesn't get had. Sort of those statistics that you were showing earlier, a lot of people don't know about those because that's not their reality. And so just bringing it to the forefront. As far as supporting College Possible, we have something called the Opportunity Guides Network, which allows you as a professional to work with a college student with a one-on-one sort of coaching model, a college student who's maybe interested in your field of work, and you get a chance to sit down with them and work with them and give them some ideas and help them build their network. Another thing, so we're an AmeriCorps organization, so we use a near-peer model, meaning that the folks who are working with high school and college students are just recent college graduates themselves. So they really get it. They've been through the system.
They can sit in a chair backwards like anyone else can.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I get you, peer.
Yeah, their hats backwards
We're
too.
Close. Yeah. Hats backwards.
Yeah, but the AmeriCorps is in danger of losing its funding. And so if you really want to make a difference, you could certainly write to your congressman and encourage them to continue funding for programs like AmeriCorps that are out to just support our youth and give back to our community.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. And you can always give money to nonprofits. We're down with that too.
Like perhaps College Possible?
Hey, we got a website.
What's that website?
collegepossible.org.
Ooh, that's how you know it's official. Everyone, Kumar Balasubrahmanyan from College Possible. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight.
Solicitation on the roadside with a thumb up to the sky. Mighty big, blue and high, stretching wide in all directions. That sweet country breeze being cordial with clouds. Riding on American size hell and thinking free. Well, it's hard and I'm hurt, dear. Pulling corks and passing time, and there ain't no I can do, and I still think of you, my love. There's calibrated on the highway, and I was snapping on a 10. We were riding with our heads back and those windows down and surfing on the wind. She's a modern day folk hero, feet on the dash with a pretty smile. Hell, we didn't care where we ride and pass on life by the mile. Well, it's hard and I'm hurt, dear, on corks and passing time. Well, there ain't no I can do, and I still think of you, my love. As graceful as a dove released from up above, from them hands up above, playing music, making love. From them hands up above, playing music, making love.
Minnesota tonight.